Hello everyone, welcome to the Discraft Great Lakes Open. This is in Milford, Michigan on a famous course called the Toboggan. If you guys haven't heard of it, you're definitely in for a treat. This is a very unique course. Lots of elevation on every single hole. There's no flat footing, no flat putts. You really have to adapt and improvise on your lie. So I really enjoyed the challenge on this course. I want to give a huge thank you to GKPro for giving me this coverage, and also to my Patreons and all of you who are watching for the support. Hole 1, it's an awesome starting hole, 477 feet. It's a dogleg to the right. It's a par 3, but it's kind of a tweener hole for the women. It's really hard to get that far, but also to keep it towards the direction of the basket. Since it's so severely downhill, you just want to drive over to the left. That's why I'm going with the Soul here. It's a speed 4 mid-range from Discraft that is very glidey and understable. So I like putting this one out pretty wide, knowing and trusting that it has an understable finish and it will glide towards the basket. This one I overcommitted because I was scared of the OB on the left side. So I am going to turn it a little bit too much and be left with about an 80-foot approach. And as you can see, I'm really having to throw a severe Anheuser angle on this putt because those bushes on the right. So that is another factor to think about on this tee pad. I'll save the par and move on to hole 2. Hole 2 is such a fun hole. Very far uphill and sits on an elevated basket. So this one is wide open, mostly, unless you get off the fairway. Off the fairway on both sides are tall bushes and trees. For me, I'm not really thinking about going into those, though. My main objective is just to keep it matching the angle of the slope uphill. I don't want it too far nose up because it will fall over to the left. So I'm trying to keep my surge SS a little bit low and trying to get as much distance as possible. This is definitely the disc I choose when I'm going uphill. It's a nice neutral flight, and although it does get some turn, it doesn't turn too much, and it also doesn't have too much of a stable finish. So I'm left with about a 200-foot approach. I throw standstill on this one because of the footing. I don't like the run up uphill. So that's another reason I'm trying to get as much distance as possible so that that upshot is easier. So hole 3 is 915 feet. It's a par 5. This one is such a fun hole. If you guys see the left side where those Discraft banners are, that is out of bounds. But this OTB wall that you see we're coming up on right now is not OB, it's just sponsor signs. So you can really rip this one. The only thing you need to think about is don't leave it left and follow B. There is severe damage that could be done on the right side though as well. It's not out of bounds, but those bushes and trees over there are so hard to find your disc. So I pull this one a little bit too far to the right, and I'm so thankful to have a spotter down there. I thought that one could have been lost, but it's actually not as bad as I thought. I'm going to go with my buzz from here and just my understable buzz and just try to get as much glide as I can over to the right. But I kind of turned it a little bit too much, and I'm going to be back in the woods on the right side again. From here, I just had to pitch out. So this will be me throwing my 4th pretty far away. So not really thinking I can make this one, just trying to get it as close as possible. And I'll take the tap in par. So we got a couple people under par so far, but again, I don't really think about the scores this early in the tournament. All I'm trying to do is stay focused, try to play the course as well as I can. Hole 4, 508 feet. It's a par 4. This one's really tricky. There's a lot of trees in the fairway that you have to navigate through, and they're all clustered here. So if you do land one behind it, you really have a difficult approach in. This is why, for me, I'm going with the roller on this hole. It makes the gap bigger, and also it's going to finish to the right, so I feel really good about this play, especially considering I threw it in practice a lot and had some good success with it. Also, this grass is short enough to throw the roller in. That's another thing you need to think about when throwing rollers. I'm putting my Avenger SS down, but I put it down a little bit too late. It's on the right side, and it's going to flip a little bit too soon into the woods on the right. This is almost far enough, but with it going into the woods, it really leaves me pinched into the right side of the fairway. I have almost nothing. Just trying to throw an Anheuser stall shot, but I clip a branch and drop down. So I'm going to have to just put a jump putt up there and settle for a par again. Hole 5, 300 feet, par 3. This one is shaped like a C, but uphill and into a tight wooded gap. The angle off the tee is very, very important. If you don't get it low enough, you're going to clip some high branches and drop down and probably roll down that hill. I've seen it happen a lot of times. So my focus is to keep it low enough under the branches, but still some height so that my sole can glide over through the gap. I'm really enjoying this disc for wooded shots that kind of glide over to the right. So this one was a little bit wide out of my hand, but it still found the secondary gap at least halfway through the flight, but does clip a tree, and I'm down about 150 feet out. Decided to go with my Crystal Fierce, but just kind of pull my wrist over. So I'm going to be on the left side of the green, just outside the circle, and that putt is what I'm left with to try to save par. And I'm feeling good about my putt. I just came off the last tournament with 100% in circle 1 on round 2 and 3, and on the first round I only missed 1. So I do feel really good about my putting right now, and I'm happy to make that par save right there. Hole 6, 540 feet. It's a par 4. This one, you go downhill and then right back uphill onto the landing zone where the guy in the blue shirt is walking right about there. That's where you want to land. I don't want to get much further than that because when you do, it gets more narrow and your disc might filter down that hill on the left side behind some trees. So I'm playing conservative on this one, throwing a putter off the tee and trying to land where the guy in the blue shirt was. And the second shot is where I will be aggressive. So I let this one go a little bit late, but it gets through. I'm going to be a little bit in the tall grass on the right side, but it is an open shot from there. So as long as I can get through the weird footing, I should be able to get one up there with this buzz. Nice and turned, very glidey mid-range, right under the elevated basket. And I will tap in a birdie here on par 6, or hole 6, sorry. All right, leaderboard check-in. Kona Pan is 2 under as well as myself. And Katrina and Haley are 1 under. So is Deanne Carey. So we got quite a few ladies under par. But again, I'm not really looking at the scores at this point yet. Hole 7, 390 feet. It's a par 4. This one, in years past, I've thought is not reachable. Actually, this is a new par 4 this year. It was a par 3 in the past. And the FPO players kind of talked to the TD and let them know, hey, none of us are even getting close to circle 2. So they moved it up to a par 4. And in one of the practice rounds, I noticed this gap over on the right side and tried it. I tried it about 30 times to make sure my percentage was high enough. And I actually played over the bushes on the right side, trying to get up there onto the green in one shot instead of throwing the anhyzer that flirts with out of bounds. So this is what happened with that drive. I landed just about 45 feet short of the basket. And I did hit some branches on that putt to drop me down to circle's edge, but I did have a chance at eagle, and that was very exciting. I felt confident on that game plan after practicing it so many times, and I'll happily take the birdie on that one. That hole got my number last year, so feels good to have a new game plan on it, and just got to stay confident moving forward. Hole 8, 462 feet. It's a par 3. This one is completely blind off the tee, and this one really got me last year. I actually bogeyed it all 3 rounds, so this year I really focused on this one. There is no even visual marker really to go off of. You just kind of have to know it, so playing it enough times really helped. I'm throwing my Zeus really wide and on a stable angle coming into the green, but this one is a little bit too wide. I'm going to be about 60 feet away on the right side. So tomorrow I'm taking notes to myself, okay, a little bit tighter off the tee. I'll happily take a par here, but I know that I can get this birdie, so I am taking notes mentally where to aim tomorrow. Hole 9, 428 feet, par 3. This one is also one of those holes where we're not getting too close to the basket as FPO players, especially considering you have to keep it so low to stay under these branches. I have seen some rollers on this hole, but it's so hard to get it far enough over the tall grass before the roller needs to start. So for me, I'm just throwing my beat-in Zeus on a hyzer flip, matching the angle of the hill, and trying to get that glide to the right. This one came out just a tiny bit late, and I'm going to clip those branches on the right side and fall short of circle 2. That one actually did have enough power, so tomorrow I will make sure to release it more left. That upshot was just a little bit quick. I just didn't think about it too much and just put it right into the tree. And I'm really frustrated with that upshot, just not taking my time. So I will card a bogey there and try to reset going into the next part of this round. Hole 10 is 370 feet. It's a par 3. This one is really hard to get. It's mostly straight for a majority of the flight, but then it goes directly to the right up this hill through a tight gap. A lot of the men throw over the top on a big anhyzer. I was practicing just laying up with my putter and then approaching it, breaking it down into 2 parts and just playing this hole for a par. So this is my Crystal Fierce here. Trying to throw it about 200 or less, because if you throw it a little bit too far, you're kind of pinched and have to throw a step out approach, as I'm having to do here. I'm going with the sidearm so that I can just throw it more floaty. This is my buzz. For me, that angle on a step out hyzer is just a little bit awkward, so that's something I'm definitely working on in my game, but I feel confident on those anhyzer sidearms. Hole 11, 318 feet. It's a par 3. This one's straight uphill, so it plays more like 360 or so. There's not OB, but there is tight woods on the right side that definitely come into play. I'm looking to throw a hyzer flip with this Surge SS. Like I said, I really like it on uphill shots because it's so glidey and just a neutral flight. Just trying not to let it go too far to the right because those branches do slow disc down and they're known to grab shots. I will find that right side and I'm going to be left with a just out the side of the circle putt. Going to step out to my left and put my Fierce on a little bit of Anheuser. And this is a great birdie pickup for a really committed putt. Hole 12, 534 feet, par 4. This one is quite the opposite. We just climbed that hill on hole 11. Now we're going right back down it. And it's going to dogleg to the right just past this tree. There's a tunnel. But this secondary tree that we're coming up on right now gets a lot of shots coming in. So instead of trying to hit that tunnel, I'm again breaking this shot down. Trying to throw my Banger GT here just dead straight. Right over that bush and just make it elevator down right by the cameraman. And that should be a routine up and down from about 220 feet. Little bit wide on that release, but there's some room to work with. The size of the green is over the circle's distance in diameter. Really like how I've broken this hole down. It just takes a lot of pressure off of the shots and allows you to just throw 2 simple putter shots and card a birdie. Sometimes I can try to really over analyze a hole and really try too hard and end up taking a bogey. So I feel good about this conservative play on this one. Hole 13, 516 feet, par 4. It's pretty flat for the first 150 to 200 feet, and then it goes straight uphill for the rest of the flight. If you can get as much distance as possible, you're still not going to be able to see the basket, but you'll be able to throw a standstill approach, kind of like I talked about on hole 2. It just really takes some variables out of the shot. And so I'm really focused right now on this drive, trying to get it as far as I can so that I can opt for that standstill approach. This is my Surge SS, gliding way up there and right in the center. Not quite as far as I wanted, so I'm going to have to take a couple steps. And this is my Crystal Fierce. I leave it just a little bit short on the left side, so I'm going to have to drop down to a knee and put it a little bit nose up under these branches and just barely miss that one. I'm pretty bummed about that. I think that it's a hole that suits my game pretty well, so tomorrow, again, taking note, that second shot needs to come in a little bit wider. Hole 14, par 3, 375 feet. We just came straight up this hill and now we're going straight back down it. This one is very difficult to land one close. It's easy to get one inside circle too, but look at all these trees guarding the basket, and they're not just skinny trees. They are covered in vines that really hinder any putt. So the key is to get it nice and wide and come in around all those trees on the back side of the basket. This is my Raptor on a wide hyzer, and unfortunately not wide enough. I'm gonna find one of those trees with the vine, and look at what I'm left with. There's no putt at all. I have to just pitch over there and take a par. Hole 15, 400 feet, dead straight. It's a par 3. Last year on this hole, I hit the basket, so I got high hopes for it this year. It goes downhill for about 3/4 of the flight, and then it comes straight uphill. Very severe slope on this green, so you do want to get as close as possible because putts are very difficult when you're not really balanced. So for me, I'm going with the Surge SS. My max distance driver. Hyzer flip to flat, and it's a little bit low, so I'm not going to quite get up the hill, but I am inside circle 2. Looking to give this one a run, but I'm really going to have to jump. And just comes out of my hand a little bit late. That would have been a bonus birdie anyway, so I'm not too disappointed in that. But tomorrow I need to get the drive a little bit higher. So score update. I am checking scores around this time in my rounds. I'm 4 under through 15, and I know Haley King, who I'm playing with, is 3 under, and Missy Gannon's 2 under. So I know that they're shooting pretty hot beside me, but I also see that Jessica Weiss is 3 under. And I know that if I can just close out the last 3 holes, even par or maybe a little bit under par, then I could walk off and land myself on the lead card again. Hole 16, 354 feet. It's a par 3, and it's dead straight again, but this tunnel is pretty tight. If you hit those trees, you are not going to have a putt, but if you get through, no matter if it hyzers or anhyzers, you will have a putt. So it's really important to make sure you hit this first gap. I'm choosing my straightest flying mid-range, the Buzz. I'm just trying to really commit to this release. And it's just a little bit low and left. It finds the ground a little too quick, but I am inside circle 2 and will have a long putt. I decided to switch to a straddle because some of those branches were in my way, so I wanted to be a little bit more out to the right of them. Leave myself a little bit of a tester, but I'm not too worried about it. I feel good on the putting green right now. So I will take the par and move on. We got 2 holes left, and like I said, I just need to shoot even par. But hole 17 does set up for an eagle if you get a good enough drive off. It's a par 5, 755 feet, and it's severely downhill off the tee with OB on the left side. So if it hyzers out too much, you are going to be out of bounds. And then the second shot is pretty much straight uphill on this basket that's sitting on a plateau. I'm making sure to get this Zeus out to the right side, and if I turn it a little bit too much, that is okay because there's a backdoor route just right of where the guy in the red shirt is. So exactly what I was saying, I landed a little bit right of where the guy in the red is, so this is going to set me up for the backdoor play here. The eagle is still in play at this point, but now instead of going straight up the hill, I need to throw a severe hyzer, and I'm aiming right at those Discraft signs, looking for it to hyzer just past them, and I get myself pin high about 25 feet to the right. And there is an eagle. What a way to finish the round out. 2 understrokes, moving me up to 6 under par. And man, eagles just feel so good, you know? So I'm very stoked going into hole 18. No matter what happens here, I feel like I shot a great round. Straight uphill, and at the last part of the flight, it hooks over to the right side. So you want to make sure you throw something with a little bit of understability, especially considering there is a OB all along the left side. So for me, I'm throwing the Avenger SS on a hyzer flip, trusting that it will turn to the right. This is key in any shot, but especially want to say it right now because I am throwing a hyzer at the out of bounds. Just trusting your discs is so important, because if I did not trust that disc, I would have been right into the woods on the right side. So I'm very happy with the execution and the trust in this, and I'll lay up this 70-footer and try to save my par here from about 25 feet. A little bit too far to the right, and I'm really bummed to be walking off with a bogey, especially after an eagle. Could have been a great 6 under round, and just an uncharacteristic miss there on the 18th green cost me a bogey stroke, and I will move down to 5 under. I do still have the lead going into round 2. Missy Gannon and Haley King are 2 strokes behind me at 3 under par. I'm excited to get another chance at this toboggan course tomorrow. I know that I can make some improvements. And we'll see you guys out there round 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my Patreons for making this possible. And thank you so much to GKPro for this awesome coverage. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit the bell so you're alerted when round 2 drops. But until then, while you're on my YouTube channel, make sure you click this link if you want to see some other series that I have going on, like Nice Line or some vlogs.